Hello, my name is Trey Lumenthal, and this is my presentation on tessellations for Honors 203. The first topic we're going to discuss is what is a tessellation? A tessellation is a repeating pattern composed of more than one type of shape that forms a tile-like surface with no gaps between. Often throughout the presentation, I may refer to them as tiles. Just know that I mean tessellations. These are often demonstrated in planar kind of tapestries and artwork. As you can see in this background, there's a mosaic over here. You can even see the types of shapes in it, and which we'll get to a bit on what type of tessellation or tile this is. But for right now, you can even see where there's squares, there's rectangles, and then you'll even see, let me get a highlighter down here. You'll even see down here and where we have irregular shapes, um, a different type of tessellation further on. Further on. The first type of tessellation we're going to talk about is regular tessellations. These are composed of a single shape throughout the entire matrix, and there's only three types of these tessellations. You have equilateral triangles, you have squares, and you have hexagons. Something to also note is that when it comes to just these two particular types, equilateral triangles and hexagons, you could even take hexagons and split them up into equilateral triangles. That's one way I've actually found of thinking about how these patterns would form. You can even have them like this, as I'm going to draw. It's not perfect, but you see 6 triangles right there. The next type of tessellations we're going to talk about is semi-regular tessellations, which they're formed from more than one type of shape. You see in this, we have hexagons, we have triangles, and what happens is by taking up, as long as you take up 100% of the space, you can make a whole bunch of these types of patterns. I've seen some with octagons, I've seen some with octagons and squares. It's just there's a very large variety of it. Next tessellation we're going to be talking about is irregular tessellations, and these are created with the use of non-standard shapes to make a pattern without gaps. A pretty niche example, I would say, is scales of a fish or a snake, for example, and how I'll actually draw it out right here. Bear with me with my subpar drawing skills. Um, oh, shoot. As you see here, though, these shapes do tend to overlap each other in an animal, but only looking at from a two-dimensional perspective, um, based on how they're organized, these shapes form a grid, all the same shape, to make a tessellation. Next tessellation we're going to talk about is three-dimensional tessellations. These are the same concept of tessellations except within a three-dimensional structure. Um, Personally, I see them kind of forming a lattice, and you can actually see an example of what a lattice looks like right here. Um, it's kind of similar to on how boxes are stored. That's how I actually like to think about 3D tessellations. Um, if you have an infinite amount of cubic boxes, how would you stack them? And sometimes you would alternate the shapes to, I guess, make a stable, more structure. But in practice, you would make a structure like this right here, this lattice structure. And actually, you can see on how this is just one individual cell right here gets made. And that they actually share points between the structure too. I actually found that kind of interesting. As you see in tessellations before, Um, that they all shared the same amount of points when it comes to regular tessellations. Uh, 3D tessellations, if they're kind of a 3D regular, they all share the same amount of points too. The last type of tessellation we're going to be talking about is fractal tessellations. These are created from an infinite amount of tiles, either by getting bigger or making those tiles smaller. These are really seen in chemical compounds and computer graphics. Um, I know, for example, chemists have made, actually, this was in 2023, chemists have made excuse me, a makeshift, what is it, Sapinski triangle, just using, I'll draw that out right here while I'm just talking about it. While discussing or trying to make a iron-like structure simply by putting triangle pieces together and together and together through the process of recrystallization. Um, it's a chemistry process where you let crystals out. These make crystal lattices, 3D lattices. So it would essentially be like a three-dimensional spec- uh, Sierpinski triangle. And actually, you can see with this example right here, it's also a form of regular tessellation because we have semi-regular tessellation. Correct me there. As you can see, we got pentagons here, we have triangles here, and as the pattern or the tessellation continues more and more, we see as they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah, it's still the same shape.